Hello everybody, Ray Pedraza on the McAllen Cable Network. You know, right now is the time that everybody is either waiting for a tax refund from the IRS or maybe preparing their taxes because they have to pay. But either way, this is also unfortunately a time when people find out they're victims of identity theft. Here to talk to me more about that is Lucy Cruz. She's a special agent in charge for the IRS to tell us how people can find out if they're victims of identity theft and what they can do, right? Lucy, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. As you stated, I'm with IRS Criminal Investigation, and we conduct criminal investigations of people that actually steal identities. The IRS is very concerned about this growing problem. This year we've implemented a pilot program working with local law enforcement agencies in the U.S. Attorney's Office to come together and try to combat identity theft and provide our local law enforcement with information they can use to prosecute their cases. Way that victims can protect their identity is to not keep your social security number and your personal information with you.
I never do that. I never carry my social in my wallet.
Check your credit reports. A lot of times the first time you may learn that you're a victim of identity theft is when you try to go file for a loan or you prepare your tax return. If you learn that, then we recommend you go to irs.gov. There are a lot of helpful tips there on filing a police report, preparing the affidavit, and then it assists us in going after those people that have stolen your identity and hopefully prosecuting them.
And Lucy, is it more of a problem here along the border, do you think? Because maybe there's a lot of immigrants trying to attain legal status and they're using information from legal citizens? Yeah,
it can be. It's a problem nationwide. We recently had what we call a sweepstakes and tried to we affected search warrants and arrest warrants. So it is a problem nationwide, and a lot of folks feel that because they're trying to just get money. So people will try to buy their information and say, oh, it's only $50, it's not a big deal, you know, nothing will happen. Well, it is a big deal, because once someone has your identity, they can use it to file all that information to get returns, to get loans, and now you've just sold your identity, and now you're going to have to try to fix those problems, and it can be very time consuming. So you should never sell your information even though you think, you know, that $50 might be quick money that you need, but that's generally what we find.
And it's a nightmare because we've talked to people that are victims of identity theft before, and so when they go to buy a house, when they go to buy a car, when they go to buy anything on credit, they can't because the person who has stolen their identity could ruin their credit. What can people do, though, when they find out that maybe somebody else has used their information to file for an income tax return? What can they do?
Well, there are several things. On IRS, we have what's called this toolkit. One of the things they want to do is make sure they report it to the credit bureaus. They want to file a police report, and they can go to irs.gov and download an affidavit that they can prepare for the police department. That allows the police department to obtain information that they can use in prosecuting their cases locally. Also, a lot of times that information can then roll up, depending on the size of the scheme, into a federal prosecution. So like I said, we're working both with state and local to provide information so that we can all prosecute these cases and stop these thieves from basically profiting from people who become victims.
Okay, and if you'd like to obtain your credit information from one of the 3 major credit bureaus, is there a fee? Is it costly to get that information about your credit history?
No, it's free. Okay. You can obtain one report from each credit bureau annually, and that is free, and I believe it's annualcreditreport.com.
I understand the IRS has a CI program. Could you talk a little bit more about what that is?
Yes, that would be the office that I run. It's criminal investigation. We have about 2,700 special agents nationwide. We conduct money laundering, taxes are core, and investigations, and we prosecute financial crimes. We basically follow the money. We are some of the best financial investigators in the world. We've been involved in some of the most high-profile cases. One of the ones you may know down here is the Stanford trial. One of our special agents did a majority of the financial analysis in that case. So our core mission is to follow the money. We have agents in the U.S. and abroad as well.
And how hard is it to track people down? Because I've heard stories from people who are victims of identity theft that it's really difficult to find those people because you have to go to different agencies to try and find the person that's using your identity. It can be kind of difficult sometimes.
Yeah, it can be very difficult, and that's why in the section of the IRS that I'm in, criminal investigation, we work jointly with the U.S. Attorney's Office and other law enforcement agencies to kind of pool our efforts and determine, you know, where these identities are coming from. A lot of times they're international. They're not within the U.S. So then we have to use our other techniques to follow how that money went through the system, whether it was through the computer system or the banking system, and that's how we trace that and bring them to justice.
And what is the punishment when you find somebody that has used somebody else's identity for their personal gain? What is it, prison time, or what is the punishment?
When it's being investigated criminally by us, absolutely, it's prison time. depending on the charge, whether it's ID theft or fraud of government checks. It could be anywhere from 5 years, but it's for each count. So you could be looking at 5, 10, 20, 25 years once you're prosecuted for ID theft. It depends on how many charges are brought against you.
Okay. What about, we've talked about identity theft, but what about other fraudulent practices? When people are filing their taxes and maybe they're claiming dependents that they really don't have, or they're using false information to try and get a bigger return. What kind of penalty can people doing that face?
Well, as an individual taxpayer, one of the other areas that we look at are fraudulent return preparers.
Okay.
So as an individual tax preparer, if you go to a return preparer and they falsely prepare your tax return, it is still going to be up to you to pay back what is due and owing on that tax return. Now, you should never go to a return preparer that's offering you, a certain sum of money by paying a certain fee. Our website has what's called the Dirty Dozen, and it basically informs you of all the new scams that are out for the new year. And one of those is fraudulent return preparers. One of those is identity theft and phishing. So it gives you tips on what to look for, how to select a preparer, and how not to be a victim of those frauds.
Okay, but could you also purchase insurance, from a tax preparer, just in case they make a mistake?
No.
No?
You can't purchase insurance. You can rely on them and their expertise, but the obligation is on you to take a look at your tax return and go through page by page and ensure that everything on there is the information that you provided to your preparer.
So there's no such thing as let me buy insurance to make sure in case I made a mistake? Okay. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. All right. So we got identity theft, fraudulent returns. What else should people be aware of this tax season?
I would say just to make sure that you, one, spend some time the way you would handling your other financial information if you are looking for a return preparer. Be very careful, like you would go in to go find a doctor or some specialist. Ask questions. Ask them, what they do with the information. How is your information secured? And what will happen if you get audited? You should never sign blank documents. You want to just be sure and protect yourself in your return preparation as you would in other areas of your life.
All right. And should you go with a prominent name maybe for a tax preparer, like, I don't know, maybe H&R Block or maybe, or what should people look for?
I wouldn't endorse a specific company, but I would just say if you went to IRS.gov and downloaded the types of questions you'd be asking your preparer, because each of those offices is independently owned.
Okay.
So you would want to interview the person that's going to be preparing your return and feel comfortable. You get that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Feel comfortable with the answers that they're giving you to your questions before you make your selection on where to have your return prepared.
Right. Like if you've never gotten a return before and all of a sudden you're getting thousands, then that might be a red flag.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Resources online. Where can people go? I know you mentioned a website. Where else can people go to get more information?
I would start first with IRS.gov. That will lead you to, the scams, preparing, selecting return preparers, forms, anything you might need if you decide you want to prepare your return for yourself. IRS.gov is the starting point. Okay,
very good. And what about phone numbers? People often like to jot down phone numbers where they can call. Where can they call? You can call 1-800-829-1040 for general IRS information. But if you want to report an abusive return preparer, you can call 1-800-829-0433. Okay, very good. Anything else we should mention, do you think? Did we cover it all? I think we did. All right, Lucy Cruz with the IRS. We appreciate you stopping by with this very valuable information. Thank you. All right. It's nice being here. And of course, we always thank you for watching. I'm Ray Pedraza, and this is the McAllen Cable Network.